to say to just put the thing? Thank you for joining us. Today's initiative that we've been working on for the past 2 years from the Plymouth Historical Society is called the Memories of Plymouth. It's a group of stories, memories that people from the community are willing to share. The two folks that we have with us today are Dottie and Tom Anderson. So I want to welcome you and your willingness to share a little bit about your time in Plymouth. The first few questions we'd like to ask, most people know you in the town, but someone in the town may not know who you are. So we want to talk a little bit about your background.
Quite a few people now that don't know who we are anymore.
What is your name? Officially, what is your full name given?
Dorothy Mitchell Anderson.
Thomas Edwin Anderson.
Thomas Edward Anderson.
And Edwin.
Edwin.
Yes.
Edwin. Is it after someone?
Yes.
Edwin? Mm-hmm.
Grandfather and an uncle.
All right. All right. Where were you born?
I was born in the old hospital in Campton, Plymouth Town
Oh,
line.
Livermore.
Yep.
Livermore. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was born in Boston, Massachusetts.
Boston. So this is a little bit of a trip for you, coming from Boston to Plymouth.
Well, by way of Waltham and Wayland. I lived most of my life in Waltham before I came here. I came here at age 19.
19. So your public education, your schooling was pretty much in Waltham?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And
I grew up in Thornton and came to Plymouth High School when it was just Plymouth High School.
so 9 through 12 was here, but
Right.
it would have been at Thornton. Do we call it Central School now?
Oh no, it was Thornton Central School for the upper grades, like 6, 7, and 8, and then prior to that, it was a little one-room schoolhouse up on the top of Upper Mad River Road.
Oh, and can you talk about some of the teachers you might have had there?
The teacher I had in the one-room schoolhouse was Olive Benton.
Benton.
They her kids own the Sugar Shack.
Mm-hmm. I was just going to say
Yeah.
that.
Yep. Yep, they were fun. And then we had Mrs. Hartwell from the other side of Thornton when I got to the central school.
How many students would have you had at the elementary level
Oh, I think
in a
I
classroom?
made it in the one-room schoolhouse. We maybe had 25.
25.
Yeah.
And that would have been K 1 through 5, K through 5.
Yeah, no, one
Through
through,
5.
and then when they built the central school, then they shut down the one-room schoolhouse, and we all shifted over there. But that didn't happen until I was in 6th grade.
Mm-hmm. And Tom, in comparison, how many students would have been in your classroom in Waltham?
Well, in my graduating class at Waltham High, it was a little over 500.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Can you remember how many graduated from your high school class at Plymouth? Probably less than 100, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Way back when.
Yeah, I think, it was 1961 was the class I was in, and that was and I did not actually graduate with them because I quit school. But was it just maybe a month, 2 months shy of my senior year?
Senior year.
Yeah.
Let's go backwards even farther. How old are you?
Right now?
You look at my finger. How
I'm
old are you?
I'm going to be 75.
Tom?
In
I'm
August.
78.
78, 75. So see, you've seen a lot in your lifetime.
A fair amount, yeah.
Yeah, so we're going to focus in a little bit on the town of Plymouth eventually. You had a business in town for several years, is that correct?
Oh, yeah.
And the name of the business was?
Anderson's Bakery.
All right,
It was there 2 months shy of 50 years.
50 years. And you worked in this business all that time?
Yeah, we rented the building in summer of 1957.
7.
We opened the bakery for business July 8th, 1958. And our last day as owners was May 28th, 2008.
What made you retire? I'm going in reverse a little bit.
We got old.
It doesn't look it, let me tell you.
The long days on your feet were just getting to be too much.
Well, let's focus in a little bit. How did the bakery come to be?
Well, believe it or not, we were on a family vacation in 1957, and my father was driving through Plymouth and he saw a sign on on the building that said "for rent," and he thought, "Hey, that might be a good idea for like a retirement business."
I'm laughing, I'm sorry.
So he called the number, and we went up to Orajok's house and rented the space. And then the next year, during the next year, we spent, building it up and having it redone, installing the ovens and all that stuff, and then.
You had some prior experience? Did your father had prior experience in the baking business?
Oh yeah, we had a bakery in Waltham, Massachusetts.
And then when you came up here, did your father continue the bakery down there for a while?
No, we sold it to my brother, and then my brother had a problem, so he went back down there, and I continued in Plymouth until I had an automobile accident, and then we closed it down for the winter and came back the next summer and stayed.
What would be the typical day working in the bakery?
It depends on which end of the era you're talking about.
But you were there so long.
Right.
What do you remember about working?
I mean, it was a typical day. When we first started, we'd start 6:30 and work until the work was done, which a typical day in the summertime would be, 6 o'clock at night, 7 o'clock at night, because summer then, prior to Interstate 93, bypassing Plymouth, Route 3 was the main road. So all that traffic came through Plymouth. And then things changed, we changed with it. Of course, holidays were much longer, almost continuous work for like 3 days. Christmas, Easter, Thanksgiving.
Due to the orders that would come in?
Right.
Yeah.
And then later on, the town changed, the business changed, the college changed. And then when I got out of the business and Dot took over completely, then it kept evolving, and she ended up the last, 20 years of going in at, 2 o'clock in the morning.
Usually 2.
2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
And what kind of duties would you have at 2 o'clock in the morning?
First I'd have to make sure the back door was shoveled out so I could get inside in the winter. Yeah.
Great memory.
And then, I'd go inside and turn on the ovens and the fryer-laters and then start mixing the doughs. Usually I would start having probably the first donuts would be ready like at around 3:30. And we had several college students that would be waiting outside the door to see if they were ready yet. They were on their way back from wherever they were.
I'm not asking any more questions on that one. 3:30
And they'd
in the
be
morning.
waving in the windows, Mrs. Anderson.
Wow, wow. And so you got to know the college side as well as the town
Oh
side.
yes, and they had many of them work for us, and most of them were just really great kids as
great.
far as employment. There were a few here and there, but no different than. In fact, when we first started, we used to hire mostly high school kids, the 14-year-olds, because they didn't want to have to babysit anymore, and their parents would like them to have a job where they could work a few hours and deal with the public and get some experience that way, and so especially the shy ones.
Wow.
So,
14 years old, is that legal?
yep.
I'm trying to, I remember
had to get
working
a
in the
work
store
permit.
as a kid, but I can't remember how old I had to be to help out.
With the help of your parents, you probably didn't have to be,
All right.
because it was family,
Right.
Okay.
to
But
hire someone else.
Non-family members, there were certain things that they couldn't do. They couldn't use a bread slicer,
Because it would be
or-
dangerous.
Sure.
use the mixing machines. They couldn't use any machinery, but other than that, working.
Just thinking.
waiting on
Who
people.
would be the longest? Can you remember who the person would be that worked the longest for you?
That would be Pam Cushing.
Pam Cushing.
Yeah. I
That's
can't remember exact number of years she was there, but she started when she was like 14, 15 and worked part-time, after school, 3 to 6, and 3 days a week. And then some of them would do, I think they're only allowed to work 12 or 15 hours, and they couldn't come in before 7 or 5:30 or something like that. There are all kinds of regulations, but it was a good fit for a lot of the really young families. And we have the Courier family, I think it was, we went through 3 generations of
That's amazing.
employees.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Starting out as part-time, would anybody become full-time from that group?
Yep, Pam started part-time and she came full-time, and many of them did. They over the summer they would move to full-time. And then
That's great.
we had some employees that one of the music students from Plymouth State that got his first job student teaching in Lincoln, and at this point we owned the fitness center, and I was up there, and he came in one day and goes, Mom, can I come back to work for you full-time? I'm not going to like this teaching stuff. So, but he did. He ended up being an awesome music teacher. He just needed to find his place.
Well said, find his place. Yeah, that's necessary for a lot of people today, I think. Memories from your time, just reflecting back the number of years that you were there, working with people, talking with the customers that came in. Are there things that that remind yourself of something positive?
Most of it was, because it's a happy place to come to. I remember, I'm not, and when Tom was there, I'm in the storefront more than he is, so he's not as visible to everybody. But what we did was provide people with something they wanted that made their day good. You didn't have to buy gas. I mean, like donuts, like So it was a treat, and you train your sales staff to make everybody's morning when they come through that door.
That's good to hear.
We had customers that were through several generations. They first came in as kids and got their free cookie, and because we used to do that with little kids that came in with their mothers. They got a free cookie.
If it was their first time in,
No,
or
no.
their
If it's their
birthday,
birthday.
or for any reason.
For their birthday.
Birthday.
Yeah.
Birthday. Nice.
Yeah.
I
And
don't
then they
think my
came
parents told me
20
that.
years later and came with their kids.
That's great.
And
Yep.
so on.
That's great. You talk about times change and the building itself changed. What kind of changes are we talking about physically? Were there changes within the structure of the building?
Not so much. I mean, we went from our old brick oven to a rotary oven. That was the only major change in there. No, I mean, obviously the town changed as Tenny Mountain grew and businesses moved out there, and the whole structure of downtown Plymouth with the feed store out back, and there was a lumber yard out back, Clarence Estes, which is now a Rand's warehouse. And Rand's used to be the biggest plumber in the area. They had, I don't know, 5, 6 trucks with plumbers, Suburban Propane. And then it changed, and Adams Supermarket went out. First National moved down to where Rite Aid is.
All those stores that were along Main Street, that was because I started writing them down the other day too, and one that came to mind that wasn't there very long was Moose Mountain Store.
Moose Mountain Store location?
It was with Harris Brothers was there first, and when Harris Brothers, let's see, who was in that building, Tom? Was that Adams Market?
Yeah, I think so. And then
I think it was
Adams
the Adams
moved
Market.
into where First National was. And Newbury's was right up the street.
Yeah.
There were 2 drugstores, York's and Farley's. Both had lunch counters.
Geyers.
Geyer's,
Can we
right.
do Geyers?
Yep.
Oh, that's 3, yeah.
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 They're all gone.
Mrs. Walker's shop. Yep.
But again, the name of the stores reflect the owners of the store
Right.
most of the time,
most of
Yeah.
the time.
except for the patio shop.
That's
That
right.
era is gone.
That's right. That's right.
Irene.
That area is gone.
Yeah,
Yeah.
except for some down at the end.
Rian's, we've got Rian's.
Yeah,
And
Steve
as-
is still there.
Yeah, and as
So-
we
Rand and Smaha's.
think of the ones that are gone, as we were just chatting prior to the recording, we have Guinan's that was there in many locations. Mhm. But you were a staple. You were a staple for the town. I think your point is well taken. Generation after generation had good memories walking in, how you received them, obviously,
Right.
and they brought the next generation in with them. That's very neat.
Yeah.
That's very neat.
That
Tons of
happened with
people.
some of our people that work for us too, that the mother had worked as a teenager and their daughter came to work as a teenager, and
Yeah.
Probably because you said part-time. You were able to fit them in, so it
Right.
worked out for their academics, their schooling.
Yeah.
It's important.
and some of them were full-time for a while, but it's really not the kind of job that most people stay at for 20 years or anything. It's a transitional job.
Do you remember the number of employees that you had? What would be the maximum number of employees for that business?
In over the course of a year, or
Yeah, I think
I
that's a fair
think the
question.
maximum number we had would probably be very similar to what you'd have to have today with the low unemployment. At one point, I had 26 people on the payroll because I could not get anyone to work more than 10 hours a week. So when you're, it's like, and there were so many, like, 8 college girls. It's like, okay, ladies, this is the deal. I don't care which shifts you work or who comes in, but if you're not coming to work, you get one of these people to show up
That's
instead.
great.
And they would do that. 2 roommates would come in. That's perfect. You party together, but one of you's got to get up in the morning.
And we'll slice that from the film. We don't have to talk about partying together and that type of thing. We're talking mostly women, girls. Is that correct? For people who work there? Did we have men
Yeah.
work there, boys that
We
worked
did.
there?
Oh, sure.
We did.
Yeah, but
Mostly.
the majority were girls.
But when you brought up the question of discrimination one time, that was something very subtle that you could see when we started hiring any men to work in the storefront. Most of the men worked out back, or the young boys working on the bench, baking and that sort of thing. But when I would hire a college boy or I don't know if there are any boys from high school. I don't think they had the high school age kids had the maturity to say, okay, I'll take that job. And they would perceive it as a sales girl's job.
Interesting.
But when
Interesting.
the guys are at the counter, the customers, you would watch them when they come through the door, and here's the male sales clerk over here, and here's the 1 or 2 of the girls over there, and they would always go towards the girls to wait on them first.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah,
And yet,
it's just funny.
some of the best workers in the back doing the baking and stuff that we ever had were women,
Women.
were girls, yeah.
And when I first came there, when I met Tom, I mean, that was an era when women didn't work out back on the bench. It was the guys' job. It's like chefs.
Wow.
Remember the chef industry? That they just didn't have women in them. And
Did anyone who ever worked for you, part-time or full-time, go on and work in another bakery, start their own bakery? Just, I'm thinking
Oh,
from
yes.
as your family.
Karen Sleeper did.
Yeah,
Interesting.
for a while, yep.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Many of them found it was a lot harder work than they thought it was.
2 o'clock in the morning,
Yeah.
did you say?
Well, I think the idea of running the whole place, they don't know what's entailed when you have to do payroll, bookkeeping, and tax
Order
deposits.
and keep
and
track of supplies and keep,
Supplies and
you
ordering.
know,
So it's one
There's a
thing to
lot more
produce a
to it,
product
right.
that they want, and yet the other thing is the management, the business side of it
Right.
too.
you have to keep records, pay taxes, things like that, you know.
So it's not all fun and glory.
No, no.
But
it
did
was-
you enjoy it?
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And for what reason did you enjoy it? Was it the social side of it? Having people come in every day that you knew?
A lot of it, yeah. And you, I mean, when you work with people for a long time, they get to be like family too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of who was next door during a certain era, and that would have been Clay's, the newsstand.
Yeah.
And I think that was a trek for many people on Sundays. Sundays, they would go in and get their newspaper, they'd go over and get their coffee and their jelly donut, and that would be their Sunday morning for you, before or
'Cause we
after
didn't start
church.
selling coffee until what? 19.
I
Can't
don't
remember what
the
year it was.
date, but we didn't sell it for quite a number of years.
And at that point, people would reminded me when we said that they would come in and get their donuts, and then they would say, "I have to walk all the way to Newberry's now to get a cup of coffee. You need to start selling coffee."
And that was the reason why.
Yeah, so that's how that started, and that
That-
evolved too.
Yeah, that changed the business quite a bit, because the more we sold coffee, the earlier we had to start opening. So pretty soon,
Wow.
with people coming to work and whatever,
You'd be
we
surprised how
were
many
busy
people.
from like 4:30 on.
Yeah, are out around town, going to and from work, and all of the college maintenance crew.
What
Their
kind-
shift used to
right.
start at 5, and they'd have to come, if they wanted their coffee, they had to come in before 5 to get over to their time. So that whole work staff, plus the town highway crew, plus the police department, a lot of the fire
What
department.
competition would you have at that time for coffee, for pastries, for bakery goods?
When we first opened,
Or over time?
over time, then, a lot of places opened up, and I think probably the most competition in the beginning was Irving's, the gas stations that started selling coffee at the convenience store,
Yeah.
because that was quick and easy rather than, we were pretty fortunate where we were located, because you could get in and out. You didn't have to drive around looking for a place to park most of the time, because it was a quick access business.
Location's still important to any
Yeah.
business
Very
that's going to,
important, yeah.
absolutely, and we've got to have enough parking, which has always been not a contentious issue, it's an issue.
It is.
People want to go
Yeah.
in and out quickly as possible.
And yet you have
everything, 93.
businesses like hairdressers, and I had this discussion with Steve Rand one time when we were talking about parking. I said, if you only have 15-minute parking, you're not going to have very many customers in your store, because I can't get in and out of there in 15 minutes.
right.
And if I want to stop and maybe buy something different, so you've got to have more time available. I think the paid meters are still a better way to go.
I'm thinking of his hardware store. Going in, I go in there because you have people that can wait on you, find you. You can find them, and they're going to help you. They're going to show you where the item is, talk to you about the item.
Yeah.
We want that. We still want that.
Yeah.
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 As quick as our society is, that's still important to us.
Well, what makes it quicker than having to walk up and down 10 aisles looking for what you want?
I agree with you. Agree with you. Let's switch gears just for a second. If we can get a little personal. You have children?
Oh yes, three children,
Want to talk a little bit about your kids?
all grown. The youngest one is in Ohio, and the oldest one is in Manchester. Actually, Shelley, the two girls are in Manchester, and Todd's in Ohio. And they all work there. They all worked there from when they were even when they were 5 years old. And it's like, okay, here's the sheet. You get a penny for every single pan that you scrape all the crumbs off of.
Go, Mom.
I think I'd keep them busy if you want help from under your feet.
But, our youngest is 52, though.
Yeah,
So I shouldn't say kids. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
right.
I'll take that back.
but there were a lot
Wow.
of funny stories
Wow.
with them in there too. They became acclimated to the general public and people, and they weren't scared.
I think it's a
Yeah.
good way to create, develop some social skills.
Yeah.
And both
That's a
our
good way, yeah.
granddaughters work there.
Yep.
1, 2, 3 generations. Wow, that's really great. That's great.
Well, 4 generations, my parents.
Excuse me, absolutely right. That's wonderful.
Yep.
You don't happen to have a picture of all 4 generations. I'm putting you on the
know.
spot
Yeah.
with Grandpa and you folks,
Yeah.
and yeah, that would be an interesting
I'm
one.
not sure. Not in the
Okay.
bakery, but there may be one.
There's not many people that can say in the town that they had 4 generations working within the complex.
Right.
That's pretty special.
Yeah.
That is special. When you first moved here, did you have, Dottie, you're a little bit outside, but when you come here and you have your business, what were your thoughts when you first moved in to town? About Plymouth, the town of?
For me, it was like moving from the woods to the city. There's a lot of people and traffic down here, but I
Yeah.
moved into Plymouth after my mother died when I was a senior in high school. So that trauma
Oh my gosh.
precipitated a lot of stuff. And so I actually lived at the Plymouth Inn my senior year in high school and worked at Fausti's Diner part-time.
And who would have been the manager at the time of the Plymouth Inn?
Oh, that was Calvin Carpenter. He kept an eye on me.
I think people
And-
remember the name.
Yeah, and Di Minicello.
That's great.
Yeah, he was a good boss.
Very lucky. Very lucky.
Yep.
Your thoughts? Reversed? Coming from
Well,
the
kind
sticks
of,
to the
I mean-
city?
Yeah, he was coming
For
from the end of the
Dot coming
sticks.
from Goose Hollow to Plymouth, that was coming to the big city, so to speak, and coming from where I grew up to Plymouth, not the big city. No. But we also lived, we had a place on Moltenboro Neck on the lake that we'd bought a couple of years before that. So,
That's still a small community.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, so,
absolutely right.
Yeah. They used to drive from Moltenboro all the way to Plymouth every day to come to work.
Okay. I have some memories I'd like to ask of you, and we can pass if nothing comes to mind. But if it does, let's do it. And I'll put you on the spot, 10 seconds apiece. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. All right. If I asked you to talk about the weather that has come through our town over the decades, is there anything that comes to light?
The thing that comes to light most was a massive thunderstorm while they were working on the Pease Library, and they had just put loam on all the lawns up here. We had a massive thunderstorm, and it washed all that loam down. We came into work the next morning, and I had almost probably 8 inches of mud all over the front of the bakery. Inside, it came through under the door and all that.
I'm just watching it come down
Yeah.
now. Oh my gosh.
Right.
Wow.
That
What
was-
era would that have been in? Era?
Oh, I don't remember. I mean, it was a long time ago. Like I
Yeah.
say, they were building
Well, if they
the
were
Pease
building
Library.
this,
And of course, when we first came here, this was Charlotte Pease's house.
Absolutely, with the beautiful gardens in the back. Yeah, yeah. Fires. Any recollections of fires?
Well, the church when that burned.
You
there
can
was
remember
one
that.
at was it Biederman's?
Oh, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. Mayhew's, Volpe's
Yeah.
Market.
Yeah.
Volpe's Market. Biederman's probably was down under at the time.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. I mean, the church affected us because they were drawing so much water out of the hydrants that the water that we tried to use for coffee they'd stirred up all the sediment in the pipes and stuff because of how much water they were drawing from the hydrants, and we ended up with brown water.
How about that customer that came in and said, boy, this is really good coffee? Or different, unusual. Okay.
Yep.
Wow,
You know,
wow.
you could filter it a little bit, but still.
If I said to you fairs, agricultural fairs, did you ever attend them when you were a child here growing up? Where would they have been?
Well, of course, we went to the
Everybody
Plymouth
went
State
to Plymouth
Fair.
State Fair. My grandfather was the president of the Plymouth State Fair Association.
Wow,
Ran that for years.
wow. What was his name?
Lester Mitchell Sr.
I'm putting the two together now. Oh my goodness gracious, absolutely. Well known for his maple syrup.
Yeah,
Am I
and
correct?
he was a senator for quite a while too.
Ah, wow,
State
interesting.
senator.
I think a lot of people remember Lester Mitchell.
Yep.
That's great. That's great. You've already reflected upon this a little bit. Major changes in town. What have you seen during your 60, 70, 80 years here? I went a little too far on that one.
Stretch.
Not
She's
quite.
looking ahead.
What comes to light? 1, 2, 3. What would they be?
Just, I'd say just the biggest thing is the traffic situation, and but the improvements as far as like the town common, and
And the traffic situation, because of the lack of parking or increase of students from the university, perhaps?
Both.
yeah,
Both, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the town has changed drastically. What is now another college building was the Draper Maynard
Sporting goods
manufacturing facility.
O.A. Miller. O.A. Miller.
O.A. Miller.
Absolutely.
All gone. There were others just down the road. Meredith, there were several big mills down there.
we were just wondering the other day if the town still has the pedestrian traffic that it had when we were here as a business, because pedestrian traffic was a big part of our business. And when you don't have, I mean, it looks like most of the houses on the side hill there are all campus now, so you don't have the young families, you don't have them walking downtown.
I don't
You
know if
have
that's
the-
ever been tracked. That's an interesting point.
You
If
don't
there's
have-
anybody that has a clicker, how many people are walking the main street?
Yeah.
And in comparison to the population that we have, or have they gone outwards to Tenny Mountain Highway, et cetera? And that's important because those people that walk on the main street, they really are your community. They're the ones that we chit chat with. How
Yeah,
are you today?
yeah,
Is everything
they are.
okay? That
Yeah,
type of
the
thing.
ones that sit in the common and wave when you go by. And
Well, that's, when you do that, I'm thinking of the Henrietta Miller and
Oh, yeah,
Irene
Henny.
Wilkie.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, for how many
Yep.
years? Guys, if you're watching
Yeah,
up there,
they're always
really.
there.
Yeah, they were the ones that would do this and probably knew everybody as a
Right.
result.
pretty much.
Yep, yeah, interesting,
But
interesting.
the town has kind of been bypassed with the change in Route 25, where it comes into 93 on the exit 26, is it? I had a car serviced out on Tenny Mountain Highway, and I left it there, and they said, well, so-and-so, one of their employees, would give me a ride. And he asked me, where do you want to go? And I said, well, take me, I want to go back to downtown to the bakery. And he said, well, how do you get there? Now, he'd been working at that dealership for several years now. He'd never been to downtown Plymouth. He comes in from the outside, goes to Tenny Mountain. If he has to go someplace else, he goes up to 93, goes north or south.
We took a ride last night. We were north, 3 north. And we kept saying, this was a former motel, this was a former motel. All the little cabins that were there,
Yep.
that when 93 they bypassed all these little places, they lost their livelihood.
Right. And the same thing happened, Campton, Thornton, all the way up.
True.
How many people that live in the area have not been on the main street in the last year?
Oh, quite
Seriously,
a few. Quite a
seriously.
few. Quite a
Right.
few. I speak to people all the time that said, oh, I never go downtown. Number one, I can't find a place to park. So
Yeah, that's been brought up 1 or 2 times. What could be done for parking?
I don't know.
Do you
I mean,
see?
when you think about how difficult it is for a business like the UPS store,
Absolutely.
people that go in there have stuff to carry. They don't want to have to walk.
That'd be an
they
interesting
do it.
discussion among
Yeah.
the business people to
Yeah.
see what they would have for solutions. Is there anything that could be
Yeah.
done?
Well, at one point, there was suggestions that they put a parking garage down there across from the old Fausti's Diner where the Plymouth Inn used to be, because there's that big knoll. They thought maybe they could dig, but I have no vision as to how many cars you could actually put in that spot and how much space. I think it's deceptive. I don't think it would.
The only logical place, I think, for a parking garage would be in Rand's parking lot, down behind the bakery, behind Rand's.
Yep.
But I don't think that's ever going to happen.
Someone suggested as they were talking about an issue, it might have been Harold Webster, hi Harold, and being the job that he had was maybe they should have really 2 lanes. You've got the Main Street lane, and then you've got the old Green Street lane where the town offices are, et cetera. If they were parallel all the way, that could make some of the parking issues subside a little bit. But wouldn't it be fun to chat about that and see if we could help the town? Yeah, because it's our livelihood. If you don't have a main street, if it's not a thriving main street, you don't have a community. You don't have a community.
It's going to be very,
Parking is not a problem that's unique to Plymouth.
It certainly is not.
You look at other towns, cities, where there's so many buildings for sale or rent, so many businesses have moved out, nothing coming in. So in some ways, we're lucky. We're doing better than many.
We have a relief, and other small towns don't. When the college students are gone, that reprieve, those
Right.
3 or 4 months allows the summer folks to come in or us to go on the main street and find the parking that we need to get in and out, in and out.
yeah. We used to do a lot of business with the local camps too, the lake camps and the properties from over by Bristol and Holderness School. We did a lot of business with them. People ordering birthday cakes, wanting
Oh,
from
that's neat. That's neat.
Africa, from Ireland, whatever. And we didn't take credit cards. Do you take credit cards? No, you'll have to send me a check. Oh dear. Don't worry. I've only had one that didn't clear in all the years we were there. Only one check, and that
And
was
you were very
because
fortunate, very fortunate. Did you take credit cards at the very end of your time? You
yeah,
did.
at the end.
We
But,
changed, huh? We had no choice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see, what can I ask? We've already done this, but I'd like to go into it more if we could. What are your memories of the industries, the downtown stores, the companies that have come and gone? Was there a time that you were excited about you heard someone was coming in? Or maybe
Yeah, Dunkin'
opposite?
Donuts. That was a scary
Oh,
moment.
I was just going to
It's
say,
like,
maybe
whoa.
it wasn't such a great idea.
You know, you worried about it when you knew it was going to happen. But because prior to them, there was that little place called the Java Hut.
Yes, I can do that.
Yeah, and the Java Hut sold their property to Dunkin' Donuts. And
Now, what was the
Chris,
electronics firm that was,
TAV?
no,
TVA?
up on, they manufactured, huh?
Sprague,
Sprague Electric, yeah.
yeah. We did a lot of business with them too.
And they were a pretty good employer.
They hired,
A lot of employees.
Yeah.
A lot of employees for the town of Plymouth. It had
And
to
they
be
would
one of the
come down.
larger ones.
they had Andy Peters used to come in every morning and pick up pastries, put them in those little wax sandwich bags
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
boxes, and he took those up to Sprague Electric for their vending machine and sold them to them. And then so he would have to come in every morning. We had to make sure we had stuff ready so they could get up there for that. But yeah, and there were the people that like Dunlaps and their food truck that used to, Marge and Charlie Dunlap, that used to park on the street. And what was Pinky Panther's real name?
I couldn't do that, but I remember Gordo's. He'd have the first truck, the pizza
Yeah.
truck that was
Yeah.
on the main
Yeah,
street.
yeah.
Maybe Thursday night, Friday nights when it was a little bit busier.
Yep.
And then we'd see them later at fairs. Whether or not they phased it, I don't think so. I think we saw them a couple years ago at a small town event
Yeah.
around here. Another generation, another
Yeah.
generation.
And now those food trucks are becoming a very big item all around the world.
Interesting. That's fun. That's
um,
fun. Do you have some artifacts for us that you would like to share that you've brought in?
You have a nice little picture of them there. The last apron that I wore that's still not really clean. These are the T-shirts that we had made, and I have
And no.
yeah. And then this is the rolling pin that came up from the Waltham Bakery with Tom's parents. It no longer has a handle on this end, but I still use it.
This is so cool.
And it's heavy.
Chilled. It really is. Oh my gosh, I'm thinking of you and me too. Wow.
And then this is a copy of the original recipe book that came up with Tom's parents when they came from Waltham, all handwritten, all dog-eared and grease-covered. But
Quarts and pounds and things that I could not
Yeah.
convert, I don't think. That's really special.
But,
That
yeah.
really is special.
So, and then we had, when we sold the business, and to this day I don't know if it went with it, but we had an old solid copper kettle that we used to make eclairs and fillings and a lot of things in. And that went with the business and we sold it. And I asked someone that was working at the pizza shop downstairs a couple of years ago if they knew if it was still there or not, because I wanted to take it and make it as a base for a coffee table. But I don't know. I never found out if it was still there. He never got back to me.
When you started, did you use the underneath, the bottom, the cellar, I'm going to call it, but that's inappropriate because there were many businesses there over time.
Just for like dead storage of some stuff, and then later on we converted it to an office and put a bathroom there.
But over the years, I've heard that by other owners of the businesses that were located there, that it was used as a restaurant. Do you have any
There was
memories?
a bowling alley down
bowling
there.
area?
Yeah.
In
Style Works, hairdressers, so on for
Yeah.
a long time.
bowling alley. So that was during Jox's era? Can you
Yeah.
do that?
Yep.
We need to investigate that a little bit more with the Franciscos.
I think, I'm sure Ross has a copy of the picture, and I don't know if I put one in with all that stuff I gave you or not. There is a picture of the bakery when it was a restaurant, and there are two men standing in the shadow. And Ross is the one that brought the picture to me, so he must have it. And that Leo Willett, I think, is standing in the doorway. And whoever the owner was,
This is prior to the two of you.
yeah.
Yeah.
Again, if I can find that picture and share it with the Jocks, they might be able to identify
Yeah.
mysteries. If we
Yeah.
don't label them, what happens?
Well, Dottie and Jeff Willett recognized his dad that was in the picture, so.
And they might
when
know
they-
the other person?
Yeah. And I might too if I saw it again, but it's buried somewhere. But there's-
When you think about all the years that you've been here, working, socializing, getting an education here, what thoughts come to mind about the town, about the community? That wasn't on my list of questions.
yeah, yeah,
You've seen so many changes.
Yeah.
You've seen
Right.
so
Yeah.
many changes. People
Yeah.
have come and gone. Businesses have come
Yeah.
and gone. You've seen some amazing, wonderful things, in my opinion.
No, it's still a nice town, but it has changed. And maybe it's just because I'm old or whatever, but I did like it better when it was a community as well, when everybody on Main Street knew each other.
What do we do to bring that back?
yeah.
What do we do to bring that back?
I
I
don't
wonder
think
if
you
you
can.
can. I mean,
don't
and
know.
like I said, with the pedestrian traffic on and that the younger population, I mean, the 9, 10, 12-year-olds used to come downtown to go to Newberry's
Five and
and
dime.
buy a toy
Absolutely.
or something like that. I mean, nobody was scared to let their kids run down the hill or across the street or anything like that. I can remember sending Todd across the street to the bank with a bank deposit bag full of cash, and he was only like 5. And
Mother.
yeah,
do that?
he was there. So take this, and he'd walk out to the edge of the curb and hold his little hand up like this, and
that's cute.
everybody
That's
would
cute.
stop, and he'd just walk over. But everybody knew him, and so everybody looked out for everybody else. And but
Well, we're coming to a close, and one of the most important questions I have is the following. If you had a group of young adults here, and that's what we've been chatting about right now, and you wanted to share some information that you thought was important, what might it be? What might it be to these folks? Some could be 10-year-olds, some could be 20-year-olds, about the town, about the town.
about the town.
About the town.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know, get involved with the town,
Yeah, invest yourself. Invest yourself in the
get off,
community.
put down your phone,
We're laughing.
talk to each other. Yeah.
I just gave up my phone. I'm trying to see how long you can go without it. I actually Phil took it back.
Saw a little,
Yeah,
little
yeah.
blurb from some school teacher asked the class, the kids, little kids, what is one thing that you're mother and father do that you hate? And they said, use the phone. I wish we could take my mother's phone away.
Wow, little kids saying that
Yeah,
about their
little
parents.
kids, because it's there all the time.
All the
And
time.
no matter what I'm doing around you, you're
Mhm.
just got that in your face.
Mhm.
That's been a big detriment to a lot of society, I think, even to those of us that hate it and have to use it.
We still have to interact as people.
We
Yeah,
do.
yeah,
We do.
And that would be the best thing if, whether it's, I don't even know if there are any little children that live in downtown Plymouth anymore. Are they all on the outskirts? Where
Going
do the
right up
parents
there.
go? Yeah.
There aren't many. There aren't many.
When you come down Wednesday nights to the Common for the music,
Concerts.
yeah, you'll see parents. There might be maybe 10 little kids that are allowed to run all around the Common while the music is playing, but you don't see any of the ones that aren't immediately under their parents. The
I think of the
10.
concerts, and we still attend the concerts because it's been in existence so long.
Mhm.
You know, it started with Keniston, and then our name would have been Freeman. Mr. Freeman, I think, was the director of that. And it's special. It is
Yeah.
special. A lot of small towns have a common where you can come and congregate.
Yeah.
But that's one of the few ways we use that area.
Right.
And it's important.
It would be sad to lose that if they do. And when they tried to put the riverbank stage area down there behind, it seemed like a good idea at the time. But again, there's a little bit more parking. But it's buggy.
We could work on that one, maybe. It's buggy everywhere right now, I think.
But it's not downtown Plymouth.
Yeah.
No, it's
Yeah,
not.
it's sending them out to the outskirts. Like,
What more could we do? More functions, more events on the main street? What would bring people downtown? Maybe that's a question for
Yeah,
our
'cause-
audience as
yeah.
well. That's a hard
yeah,
one.
because we've been gone 10 years this month. And we remember big parades for the Halloween parade and the Christmas parade. Memorial Day used to be big. I don't think that it is so much anymore. I'm not sure. And they always left the 4th of July for Ashland to take care of. Nobody wanted to compete with that.
No,
But
no. That is another well-established event that takes place that all of
Yeah.
us look forward to. I'm not sure. The fireworks are beautiful, but we know we're going to Ashland. That's the way it's going to be. Mom and
Yeah.
Dad would put us all in the car and shut the town,
Yeah.
shut the store off early, and off we would go and sit on top of the cars.
Yep.
I can remember that. Interesting, interesting. Anything else you'd like to share with our audience today as we close down a little bit?
no, I think that what you said about trying to get the people that actually come into this town to be more invested into what happens here.
Well, that's what a community is, and that's, I think, the essence of the program that we have today is we've been very fortunate. Sometimes our town is small during the summers, sometimes it's very large during the school year. Wouldn't it be fun if we could have a think tank, a group of people saying, what more could we do? People have invested a lot of time and energy into events to bring people into the town. But is there something we've forgotten, just forgotten,
Yeah.
what we might want to bring back that keeps the livelihood on the main street, but more importantly, reminds us that we're a community? And I think your point is well taken. You have to invest in your community. And investment takes a lot of, it can be monies, that's one thing. It's just time.
Yeah, I mean
time that you give
face
of
to
yourself.
face, talking. Actually speak to the people when you walk down the street. Yeah.
Instead of this, we're being a little cynical today.
Also, you just said that, the town is big in the winter and small in the summer. And when we first came here, it was just the reverse. Before 93 bypassed Plymouth, it was huge in the summer and small. All it was Plymouth Teachers College, which was much smaller.
It was a few hundred people.
Yeah.
It was a few hundred people until it exploded in the latter part of the 60s. Things were being built, and the numbers were coming in. Yeah, interesting. I want to thank you. This was really fun for me.
Yes.
Absolutely fun. This is They pay me a lot of money to do this. This is so great. So as a reminder, we want to thank the Andersons for giving up a little bit of their time now that they're retired. And again, we want to thank you people thinking about what a community is. So until next